Today we're making the Jeepers Creepers axe, regular size, straight out of the movie.
So, a murder weapon, but safe enough to bring through airport security?
Well, EVA foam and PVC, so yeah, about as threatening as a pool noodle with an attitude.
Perfect. I'll bring you to my next job interview.
All right, what's up everybody? So in today's video, I'm going to be showing you how to create a foam axe using some various materials. So let's talk about the design a little bit so you guys can follow along visually as we create this prop. Now, as far as prop, swords, axes, that kind of thing, I've done a few here on the channel, but they're mostly like knives or blades, something like that, something small. We're going to be using the same techniques that we've used in those videos, but I'll be using a few different materials, and this is going to be more detail oriented because it's such a big axe. We're going to be doing this for the Jeepers Creepers build I just made. I'm selling the character, and the person that I'm selling it to wants an axe for it, so I thought it'd be a cool and perfect way to bring you guys a tutorial on how you make your own costume weapons, cosplay weapons, that type of deal. So why don't we go ahead and get to the material list so you know what you're going to need to create this awesome weapon. So first and foremost, we're going to be using some 10mm craft foam. Now I'm getting the really thick stuff this time just because I want this blade to be a little more rigid, and it's going to give me a little more room to bevel the edges to create more of that sharp bladed looking front. And then also I can dig into the actual foam with some of my tools to get a lot of the details out of there. Now, as far as the handle itself, we'll be using some 3/4 inch PVC pipe here, and we're going to be using a Dremel, a rotary tool, a die grinder, anything that you might have that spins a bit at a specific rate of speed, so you can cut through that and carve out some different like wood textures, grain, that kind of stuff. We're definitely going to be needing some craft acrylic paint in this. We're going to do a lot of dry brushing techniques. I'll show you guys all that throughout the video as well. We're definitely going to be needing some contact cement to get our foam glued up. Now, I haven't actually used contact cement. This is going to be a first for me, but I've seen so many different people use it when it comes to cosplay and all that good stuff, and they make some incredible things. And I know some of the skills that I've learned along the last few years making props for you guys that I can make something really cool too. So we're going to be using some of that. I have foam clay, and I know you can use foam clay with this to create really intricate looks and builds. But without any further ado, why don't we go ahead and get in that spooky spirit, because we're about to go wild with it. Yeah. All right, to start off our project today, I knew I was going to need some kind of rigid support in the middle of my axe. So I just took the bottom of a plastic bin here, and I'm going ahead and just tracing out my design and then cutting it or scoring the plastic with an actual razor blade, and then I just crack it off. Now, some of my pieces snapped when I was doing this. This probably isn't the best way. It'd probably be better to use a rotary tool with a tungsten bit and just carve it out. But I was being lazy, so I got this kind of design here. Now, I did make sure to carve it a little smaller and left about an inch, 3/4 to an inch of room on the outside, so when I glued the foam and everything together, the foam would adhere perfectly with the contact cement. So I made sure to make that plastic rigid support on the inside just about 3/4 to an inch bigger. That way that would fit in perfectly and glued together, no problem. And I'm using a sharp blade. I can't stress how important it is to use a sharp blade. And again, with this 10mm craft foam, I'm cutting out 2 designs. So I just took that original one, traced it out, and then cut it again. That way I can sandwich the plastic in between this, and then also bevel the edges for that axe, make it feel more realistic, a little more bulky. Now for the PVC pipe here, I ended up using my painter stick right there as a guide, because I'm going to use that as my structural support. And then I'm just using an 1/8 inch bit and then just carving or drilling out some holes, and then I'll use my rotary tool here and just carve a little relief so I can put that painter stick through, and that'll work as my structural support for my actual axe blades, and that's what I'll be gluing everything to. Now the 3/4 inch PVC pipe here, I cut that at about 24 inches. I thought that was long enough for this axe. And now for the contact cement, this is my first time using this, but from all the different reviews and stuff that I've seen, people using it for cosplay like this, you basically just put on a good amount on either side of whatever you're trying to glue together and then let it dry. Now you have a window between about 5 and 15 minutes where you can actually stick these pieces together. So as long as that gloss goes away and then it dries, then you can stick this together, and it really does stick super well. I was super impressed with this, so I'm definitely going to be adding it to my repertoire of things to do when I'm making my props, because this is going to be awesome. I'll probably use this for my costume this year, as a matter of fact. And now to just hold this little plastic piece into place, I'm just using a little bit of hot glue here, but the contact cement's going to do the majority of the work for me. And now I'm just assembling all my pieces, so my axe in the front, and then as far as those small pieces that you see for the back here that I'm gluing together, this is going to be for, it has this weird fork design on the back of the actual axe, so I thought that'd be the perfect thing. And now I'm using another one of these paint sticks here just to create the little, I guess, fork tines, I don't know what you would call them. So they look uniform and even, and it makes more sense for the design here. Also too, I wanted to cut around that paint stick that I have in the middle and not have that showing at all, so this was a better way to do it. They could have been a little bit thinner like the original design, but I figured this is going to work. Okay, and now I'm just gonna go maybe about 3/4 of an inch from the edge here so I can create that bevel. And I'm just using, again, a sharp blade is super important with this. I was thinking about doing my hot knife and using that instead. It probably would have been a little bit easier, but I was working inside my garage and the fumes from cutting like foam and plastic with that hot knife is terrible. But this bevel was perfect. I ended up beveling all the edges as well because I want this to feel like some dude crafted this or forged this in his, you know, garage or shop or farm or something like that, just to make it a little more interesting. And here I wanted to cover the, I guess, the seam where it's laying against the PVC pipe, and this was the best way to do it, just to create another little piece of quote-unquote metal here that I'll be gluing on, covering up that little patchwork there, and it just made it look so much better. And again, I beveled the edges on this as well. So again, a little bit more contact cement. I put it on the surface I was going to glue it to as well. Waited about 5 minutes and then pressed it together, and man, this stuff again holds so well. I can't wait to do something else. I definitely want to do some kind of sword, medieval sword. If you guys want to see me do more weapons like this or cosplay costume stuff, please let me know down in the comment section below. You know I'm down. And now to smooth everything out, because it was a little rough with the blade there, I went ahead and just put a sanding drum on my drill and then just kind of smoothed everything out. Again, I wanted this to feel more like a war axe type of deal, handcrafted, that kind of thing. And it really does have that effect at the end, but this, I just wanted a little bit smoother, a little more realistic. So this worked out really well, and just beveled the edges, cleaned everything up. So now we're starting to get to the detail here, and I thought, you know what, even though Jeepers Creepers axe didn't call for any kind of leather wrap, I just wanted to try it out to see how it looks. So I had some scrap 5mm craft foam. So I thought I'll cut a couple strips of this and then just contact cement it directly to the actual PVC pipe here. And then as far as the top here, just cut a little scrap and glued this into place as well. But it just gave it another layer of detail. Pretty cool. I'm going to go ahead and distress this in a second here, just with a razor blade and a soldering iron, just to give a little bit more detail. Again, this is my first time working with this stuff, so as far as the material list, I'll make sure to leave a list for you guys to see of all the things I use, tools and equipment and everything, just so you can see what I did. But I used this little soldering gun I got recently at a garage sale, and I was like, maybe I'll carve some things into it, make it look cracked like old metal, and then it also let me push in like almost like rivets or screws or something to make this look even better. And again, the devil's in the detail with this stuff, you know, so take your time. Once you get the axe constructed and you're happy with the overall look of it, then just go back in, take a soldering iron or a sharp razor blade, and don't cut all the way through with the razor blade, but just kind of score the surface. And I found out that if you do this and then use your heat gun like you see me doing here, what that's going to do is open up those scratches so they're going to be more visible. Also too, the heat from the heat gun actually seals the foam, the cells of the foam, makes it a lot easier to paint, and it's going to help with the longevity of your piece as well. So just, you know, go over the surface, and you have to use a heat gun, don't use a dryer. It has to be pretty hot when you're doing this, and you'll see the surface change in texture and consistency as well. But again, I'm just going ahead and using my razor blade here and then just heating that up so those things, those cracks and scratches widen a little bit. And then when we start doing our detailed paint, our dry brushing, it's going to look great. Props like this eat up a lot of foam, glue, and patience. Mostly foam.
That's where you come in. A like, a comment, or a donation keeps Gio from duct taping this thing together.
Seriously, even just sharing the video helps us keep making ridiculous props just like this.
And helps me afford my growing caffeine dependency.
Links down below. You know what to do.
So donate. Help us fund the madness.
All right, to get in our paint here, I'm just using a base coat of black like I typically do. This is just regular latex paint. I wanted something a little bit hardier than craft paint for my base coat. And then I'm just taking some craft acrylic paints. This is a gold color first, and I'm just dry brushing it haphazardly. Now, when you're doing the dry brushing, make sure you're moving the direction of your brush constantly so you don't get the same brush strokes and then it starts to look really super artificial. So just take your time with this. I'm using a sponge brush here as well. And I wanted the gold underneath and then primarily this silver color over the top. So I'm going a little heavier with the silver here, but the layering effect is what makes this feel more realistic. So once I get done with all this part, making sure to hit all the high spots with this silver and really give it a good coat, I go in with some black paint here. This is basically a wash. So this is going to be a lot thinner, and then I'm just going to paint that on the surface because the actual Jeepers Creepers axe looks more dark like this and dingy. And then I'll take a little bit of or a clean rag here and just kind of dab away the excess so it looks a little more realistic. But this is a really good technique to try out after you get your dry brushing done. Just make it look a little more grimy and gritty. And it came out great. And as far as the actual leather wrap here, I thought, okay, I'm just going to use a little brown color, do a dry brushing, and then I'll go back in with the rust color, which is a little bit lighter, and then I'll dry brush that as well, and that should give me that old leathered look. And it really did. I love the way it came out. I'd also really love to try some kind of armor for a costume. I thought that'd be so cool, so maybe I'll do that in the future as well. Now for the actual wood texture here, I just took a pretty wide brush and the bristles were already kind of spread, and I just lightly kind of drug my brush in a grain pattern design, doing some knots and stuff just to give it a little more texture, something else to look at. But now I'm going to seal this with an outdoor spar urethane. This thing is pretty much done. I hope you guys liked today's build. If you did, let me know down in the comments section below. But until next time, happy haunting. And there it is. The Jeepers Creepers axe looks deadly, feels like cosplay.
10 out of 10 times would terrify a trick-or-treater.
But until next time, keep building things.
Stay creative.
And don't forget to go wild with it.
I'm Reggie with Carvalho Creations. And I'll see you, as in you over there sitting behind the TV watching me,
next time.